Everyone knows Jack Sparrow, the eccentric pirate, with his staggering gait, black coal eyeliner, and red bandana. Disney turned him into an icon of comedy and adventure in the Caribbean and transformed this character into a real gold mine. Do you know the size of the financial machine Disney moved behind this name? The production cost of the 5 Pirates of the Caribbean films reached more than $1.25 billion. Indeed, the 4th part alone, On Stranger Tides, went down in history as the most expensive film ever produced, with a cost exceeding $378 million. In contrast, this series garnered imaginary revenues exceeding $4.5 billion around the world. But behind these billion-dollar figures lies a major crime of historical forgery, for the truth is much deeper and more exciting than Disney's fantasies. This character is inspired by a real hero who never set foot in the Caribbean, but rather sailed in Islamic and Arab waters, carrying the banner of the Ottoman Caliphate. Look now at the details that Disney replicated. The black coal that Yusuf Reis used to wear, as was the custom of sailors in the East to protect their eyes from sun and salt inflammation, the red Ottoman bandana, and his deep hatred for the British Royal Navy. These are all details stolen from the biography of a real Muslim leader. His historical name is John Ward, known as Jack Ward. In the beginning, he was not just a wandering pirate, but a brave privateer working for the British crown to fight the Spaniards. But the major turning point occurred in the year 1604, when Britain signed a peace treaty with Spain, leaving Ward pursued by his Royal Navy. In that period, a book about Al-Andalus fell into his hands, that civilization that taught Spain the arts of medicine, pharmacy, and mathematics for 8 centuries, while Europe was drowning in ignorance. Ward realized that the Islamic presence there was not just a conquest, but a civilizational project that moved Spain from primitivity to the Renaissance, where the Spaniards learned from Muslims astronomy and the unique architectural arts, whose traces remain in the Alhambra Palace and the Mosque of Cordoba. But he also read about the 8th century struggle and the fierce wars that Muslims fought against the Spanish kingdoms. This historical saga and the military ebb and flow that lasted 800 years ignited questions in his mind about Islam, that religion that gave leaders the strength not only for building, but for military steadfastness against the Spanish kingdoms, his common enemy for 8 centuries. The Sparrow lived through the peak of the Ottoman-Spanish conflict, when Spain, the superpower at the time, spent more than 4 million gold ducats annually on its fleets just to crush Ottoman influence in the Mediterranean. Ward's days witnessed the repercussions of the Great Battle of Lepanto, the battle in which the Ottomans lost 200 ships and 30,000 soldiers. But in a military miracle that amazed the world, they rebuilt an entire fleet comprising 250 warships equipped with the latest cannons in less than 6 months only. This steadfastness and great certainty drove Ward to defect from the British crown in search of an ally who shared his enmity towards Spain. He fled with his sailors and seized a royal ship and headed towards Tunis, which was a strong Ottoman eyalet and an impregnable fortress. Upon arrival, he officially announced his conversion to Islam before Othman Day and changed his name to Yusuf Reis. His conversion was not superficial. He stopped drinking alcohol completely and harnessed his English naval experience to serve the Ottoman fleet in its holy war against the arrogant Spanish Empire. At that time, Spain was leading the Holy League to control trade routes, but Yusuf Reis revolutionized Ottoman tactics. He replaced the traditional light sailing ships with huge man-o-war ships equipped with double rows of cannons, which enabled the Ottomans to shatter Spanish technical superiority at sea. In the year 1609, while Yusuf Reis was in Tunis, King Philip III of Spain issued a brutal decision to expel more than 300,000 Morisco Muslims from Al-Andalus. This decision turned the Mediterranean into a field for a retaliatory war. Yusuf Reis led Tunisian and Algerian fleets to strike deep into Spain, contributing to the capture of hundreds of Spanish ships and restoring the prestige of the Islamic fleet, which came to control the most important international trade routes between East and West. Among his most famous battles in 1607 was his legendary attack with his ship, the Gift, on the huge ship Riniera y Sodrina, which was considered one of the largest ships of the era and loaded with treasures estimated at hundreds of thousands of gold pieces. Yusuf Reis, with his intelligence, was able to break the prestige of the Spanish floating fortresses and turn the Tunisian coasts into a graveyard for the dreams of the Spanish Empire. His battles were characterized by unparalleled boldness, as he would attack Spanish convoys protected by heavy warships and return, loaded with spoils that supported the state treasury and were used to care for and finance the rescue of the displaced Moriscos fleeing the atrocities of the Inquisition. Jack Ward turned into a real nightmare haunting the beds of Europe's kings, to the point that British King James I described him in his official correspondence as the greatest and most dangerous pirate the world has ever known. As for the title Sparrow, which Disney stole to give the character a comic nature that serves its commercial goals, there was a moving human story behind it in Tunis. Yusuf Reis was known in the city's alleys for his intense love for the small birds that filled the garden of his great palace built in the Ottoman style. He would spend long hours feeding the sparrows and caring for them, which prompted the residents of Tunis, who appreciated his heroism and mercy, to nickname him Jack Asfur, or Jack Sparrow. This amazing contradiction between the tough leader who terrifies empires and the merciful man who finds his peace in feeding sparrows is what created his real legend that does not die. Why did Disney reduce a legendary figure bridging east and west to a drunken pirate in slapstick scenes? Such commercial reductionism strips cinema of its human resonance. History confirms that Jack Ward, or Yusuf Reis, died in Tunis in 1622, an English rebel turned Ottoman commander, proving that historical truth remains far more compelling than fiction. This leaves us wondering, was Disney's creative trivialization due to narrative limitations, or a calculated financial hedge against a massive production capital risk on a hero who breaks the mold?